Hello, my name is Holland Timmons, otherwise known on this channel as The Connoisseur, and today we'll be looking at Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Interestingly enough, when I first saw this film, I friggin' hated it, but it kind of grew on me as I watched it more and more, and I'll be talking about why and what rating I would give it as we go through this review. Um, so, This starts out in 1957, which means Indiana Jones is now 58 years old and pushing 60. Um, but yeah, uh, he's actually kidnapped by communist spies, uh, and he is taken to Area 51. Interestingly, it's the same warehouse where not only are they storing the dead bodies from the Roswell incident, which in my opinion is the worst U.S. military cover-up in the nation's history, definitely the worst military cover-up in the nation's history, but no, it also has the Ark of the Covenant from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that's interesting. There's this huge warehouse chase with Indiana Jones. Definitely really a good chase and fight sequence. And it ends with a really controversial moment with an implausible escape, maybe impossible even, with Indiana Jones getting in a lead-lined refrigerator and getting nuked, throwing hundreds of yards, and landing outside of the core nuclear blast zone, still getting irradiated, but it leads to one of the best shots of the movie. Indiana Jones staring at a mushroom cloud. Indiana Jones has officially landed in the atomic age. A lot of debate over that shot of the fridge, but I'm not going to try and defend it as realistic, because it's definitely not. But realism was never part of Indiana Jones franchise. It really never was, and anyone who argues that it was clearly doesn't understand these movies. It's like the impossible escapes of the B-movie serials. Anyway, so Indiana Jones finds out that he's being investigated by the government over his alleged involvement in the Area 51 incident. And so he's leaving, and he's actually stopped by Mutt, played by Shia LaBeouf. Honestly, I have not seen that many Shia LaBeouf movies. I've seen quite a few of his work, even holds. But I would say this is his best performance that I've seen in this movie. It is his best performance I've ever seen him give. So I'd give him B plus for effort. No, it's better than the D's or C pluses I gave him for his other movies, but definitely a B plus for effort by Shia LaBeouf. LaBeouf, I don't fucking care. Anyway, so he finds out that Harold Oxley has been kidnapped by the Soviets, and there's a huge chase through the campus, and they go to South America where they investigate. Indiana Jones talks about his youth being kidnapped by Pancho Villa, which further canonizes young Indiana Jones as actually having happened, not just a TV series that's separate from this. This actually is part of his life, young Indiana Jones to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, yeah. Of course, then they find the Crystal Skull, and then they go to the Amazon at the KGB camp, where Indiana Jones is tied to a chair and forced to look at the Crystal Skull. And then he is introduced to Marion again, and yeah, actually, Harrison Ford and Karen Allen have a lot more chemistry in this movie than Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher did in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Sorry, Star Wars fans, but it's true. I mean, this had a lot of chemistry with each other, you know, and I felt that was really what helped this movie when Karen Allen showed up as Marion Ravenwood. And turns out Marion Ravenwood had Indiana's kid, which was Mutt. And if I had to like recall a Carl Barks comic that was similar to this movie, I'd say Back to the Klondike, where Uncle Scrooge is an old man and he hooks back up with his old flame, Glittering Goldie. I said, like, Willie Scott was Glittering Goldie, but in terms of being his true love, that would have been Marion Ravenwood. So in this, it really is Back to the Klondike type adventure. Yeah, so that's my Carl Barks quote for the day. It's a race to find this ancient lost city in the Amazon, and they're racing the Russians to get there to return the Crystal Skull, and they do find the city after many adventures. This is essentially a giant chase movie. This is a giant chase movie, so, you know. And they get to Akator, also known as El Dorado, and they put the Crystal Skull back, and, yeah, essentially the movie ends with this flying saucer going into another dimension, which honestly has been a theory of mine for flying saucers. It's like they could be interdimensional travelers, not just space travelers or time travelers. They could be interdimensional, so I like that they did something original with, you know, the Crystal Skull and aliens. Though they're not really aliens from outer space, but aliens from another dimension, so that's pretty cool they thought of that. And it ends with a wedding between Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood. Now, a lot of people hated this movie when it came out, and I did too, but on subsequent viewings, I saw that really it was no different than any of the other Indiana Jones films. And ultimately, I feel this is really mistreated, much maligned, and misunderstood. Deals with a lot of real-world mythology. Has Russian spy rings, which were found to be happening in the U.S. a few years ago. From what I've talked to some people in the military, it happens a lot more than you think. There's the Area 51 and the Roswell aliens, which again is like some real-world American mythology. And honestly, it's the most piss-poor American military cover-up I've ever witnessed. Well, I haven't witnessed it, but I know enough about it to know it's just such a poor cover-up. And people actually buy that cover-up. It's crazy. But yeah, there's Crystal Skulls, which people believe in. There's a Lost City, which has recently been discovered. So a lot of the stuff they talk about in this movie has actually either been alleged or actually been proven to be true. So, despite what you may think of this movie, it's actually a lot better than most movies we get these days. I mean, really, Batman v Superman, I thought it was good, but it's nowhere near as good as this movie. I mean, there's just so many bad movies coming out that, you know, this is actually a masterpiece in comparison. And I do think it's an Indiana Jones movie that has everything I'm looking for in an Indiana Jones movie. And since it has everything I'm looking for in a movie of this type, I can't help but give it a 10 out of 10 because I know that's going to be controversial, but it has everything I'm looking for in an Indiana Jones movie, from the real world mythology and events to just the Indiana Jones escapes, chase scenes, and adventure and character development. My God, character development in a action movie. Who would have thought, right? Again, this is a lot better than most of the movies we get nowadays. So if you haven't seen this, maybe you should watch it again, because I think this is a lot better than most movies today. Sign of Hollywood, really. Oh, there was this one thing. Apparently Steven Spielberg recently was trying to pass the buck on to George Lucas, saying, it wasn't his fault Kingdom of the Crystal Skull sucked, which I don't think it did, but he said it sucked, and it was George Lucas's fault. Well, I'm sorry, Steven, but you're the director, and as someone who's making some movies myself, as a director, you have to own your movie. You made all the decisions, you directed the actors, you cast the actors, you hired the screenwriter. I mean, George Lucas came up with the story and executive produced the movie, but ultimately this was your movie. And so as your movie, every decision you made in terms of the movie is your fault. So if you think the movie sucks, it's not George Lucas's fault that it sucks, it's your fault. But, to be honest, I think this is one of your better movies in recent years. So, that's just all I'm gonna say. I think it's one of his better movies, recently. I'm not saying Steven Spielberg has lost his edge. If anything, this brought him back in step with making better movies. Ultimately, I feel he's losing his edge again. And I think Indiana Jones number 5, or as I call it, Indiana Jones number 27, due to come out in 2019. I think that'll bring him back in line. I think every once in a while Steven Spielberg needs to make an Indiana Jones movie just to get his mojo back. That's just my opinion. I mean, he made great movies after Kingdom, the Crystal Skull, and lately he's been losing his step again, so maybe he needs another Indiana Jones movie to make good movies again. It's just my theory that Steven Spielberg and Indiana Jones equal great movies from Steven Spielberg, and this is definitely one of them, so, yeah. Fingers crossed for Disney's Indiana Jones movie, but George Lucas won't be coming up with the story, so that's half the Indiana Jones equation out the window, which sucks, because this was one of my favorite film collaborations of the two best filmmakers in Hollywood. I know people are glad George Lucas isn't part of Indiana Jones 5, but that just shows how much they understand about Indiana Jones. George Lucas is responsible for the story of Indiana Jones, from Indiana Jones, My First Adventure, to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That is 26 movies. High quality, rich storytelling movies. And I just think it's a shame that George Lucas is no longer going to be a part of the equation. Because now I think they're going to do a Force Awakens type Indiana Jones movie where they bring back Nazis and, either just something, one of the MacGuffins from the previous movies. And I think that's sad, because George Lucas said he never wanted to repeat, the stories from his previous movies, which I always respected about him. I always respected that about him. Well, I hope they don't pull Force Awakens and ruin one of my favorite film adventure series, but I don't know. It's Disney. Yeah. So, what do you think of Indiana Jones? Do you like it more than Star Wars like I do? Do you hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? What do you think of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull versus today's quality of movie? I think it's a lot better than today's quality of movie. I would love to hear what you think. Feel free to comment below. If you want, like, comment, please subscribe. I'll be doing more reviews soon. Though to be honest, I am going to be quite busy with my film. But I'll post when I can. Alright, everybody, take care. And have a good day, a nice evening, whatever. I know I will. Peace.